Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Joe Thomas. I'm a social studies teacher out of Mesa and currently serve as president of the Arizona Education Association. It's the largest teacher union in the state, representing 20,000 education employees. And I'm asking you to find a different solution to what it is that you're seeking to solve here, because this is, as you heard a former educator say, this will be something that educators will point to in a whole bag of bad things, we'll call them, that have come their way in the last 2 years, that will make them feel that they're not valued and their curriculum is being called into question and they're going to move on. Now, I don't have a number for you on that, but I do talk to educators every day, and they do not feel supported. Bills like 2112 divide us. And they divide us at a time, they divide the community as well, and they divide us at a time when we need to be coming together. My entire life, I've watched parents and teachers, and even in the modern era, students come together and solve problems. After hearing your conversation today, after learning about civil rights marches that people have been on and the true beliefs that you have as Republicans and Democrats, I would ask you to do two things. One, push this back down to the local community. Have parents, teachers, and even students decide if this is an issue they need to prioritize in their community. Is this something that they agree is happening in their community? And if it is, let's look at the State Board of Education, who should have purview over this to be able to come up with some best thinking that could come up with what I will offer as the second most important thing I think you all surfaced. It's teachers across this state need quality professional development in understanding the strength of diversity that their students bring to their classroom and how to interact in that in a culturally responsive way. That is something you could fund. That is something that you could push out to make sure that all educators are understanding what we're asking them to maybe teach or to not teach, but at least to explore in the classroom.
Please wrap up.
Well, that's it. Every bill that you all hear, I'll close with this. Every bill that you all put in a committee is a statement to educators. And bills like this don't say you're doing a great job. Bills like this don't say we're hiring a whole slew of counselors to come in and support your families and their students so you can focus on teaching. Bills like 2112 that are written with language that is too vague to clearly understand how to implement say we simply don't trust you, we're going to take this matter out of your hands, and we're going to tell you what you can and cannot do. And that is why people will refer to it, not everybody, but enough, too many, will refer to this as one more reason that they do not feel respected in this state and they'll look elsewhere for employment. If this issue is happening, and we have no data to indicate that it is in a systemic way at all, let's have the people closest to the students discuss how to move forward. I'm telling you, your parents saw problems in your school district, just like mine did. I think we can do it as well. Thank you.
Representative Fillmore.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, sir, I sincerely appreciate you coming up here and being supportive of the teachers and talking about that. And I need to ask the question, is the goal of the Arizona Education Association and the teachers, is that to have teachers that are going to teach about racial disharmony and strife and blame and historical correctness or incorrectness or things of that nature? Or are we ever going to start teaching our kids about science, technology, and math, English, writing, and reading, when I, as a member of the legislature, look here and want to be very supportive and give extra money to the teachers? When we have 227 school districts, we could get rid of 115 and leave $500 million to the teachers, which is opposed by your organization, things of that nature. That's a different battle and a different conversation we can have at another time.
Please keep it to the current
What
bill.
I'm trying to get at is that I look at the AZ merit scores, and you say that we don't give respect to the teachers for them to do their job. We do give them respect. But we also look at AZ merit scores of 45, 42, and 50. I have a school district in Yuma, Arizona, that 7% of the kids pass in English, or 9% in math, and like 5% in the science studies, and they got an 85% graduation rate. The kids should have the ability to sue the state of Arizona, the Arizona Education Association, for the education they never got after sitting in school for 12 years, and they want to talk about Project 1619 like the Ball School District and that. And what I'm trying to say here is that we've lost all semblance of intellect and reality when we're teaching our kids about social issues and things of that nature, and not the things that's going to make them a value to the state of Arizona and the workforce. Am I wrong? Can you correct me? Give me your guidance, because I'm obviously wandering out here and I don't understand. Please.
Mr. Thomas.
Representative Fillmore, you asked so many questions in that, and I'm being serious.
Have at it.
Representative Fillmore, I will sit down with you and address every single one of them as I best understand it. So let me just hit a few of the top ones. The Arizona Education Association's mission is to keep the promise of a quality public education. Very broad statement, like all mission statements are. But sir, what we think that means is that regardless of where you live in this state, you should have a great public school. Not school choice, school quality. School quality. That's what we haven't been talking about for 20 years and educators are screaming about. We all know who on our team isn't pulling their weight, and nobody wants to teach with that individual anymore. We see so many good, well-intended people coming into our schools because they're willing to fill a classroom no one else is, and they are not supported because they've not been through any kind of formal training, and the district doesn't have the resources, the manpower, or the time to help them become a better educator. So it falls to us. One more duty. And we want those people to be successful because they've got fifth graders, just like we do. Or talk to the sixth grade team because they really want the fifth grade team to be successful because they're going to get those kids next year. What I see here is an absolute disagreement about how to solve our problems. We want kids to be in an environment that is safe for them, that allows them to explore, to compete, to all of the things that I think we loved about public schools. But laws like this confuse people. So if this can come back with more clarity, if we can really identify what is going on clearly, systemically in our public schools, I think we would be one of the first organizations to draw a critical eye to that because we represent educators that want everybody pulling their weight. We understand we are all in this together, absolutely every one of us. One of our clear core values is that education, public education, is a community commitment. And that's the piece that we're not doing well right now. Because we're using, sir, I'll agree with you, we're using Congress and partisan attacks on each other as our models for how to dialogue. Look at the governing board meetings that have been going on for months in this state, where people come in and you don't even understand what they're talking about anymore, but they're very passionate and they very much believe in what they're talking about. But we're not solving any problems. We're just yelling at each other. So I truly believe push this back to parents, to teachers, to educators, to students. And let's see what's really going on. Because we can guess all day what we think our students want, or we could do what educators do every single day. And ask them, what do you want to learn about today? What are we going to learn about together? They can handle some of these topics, and it must be age appropriate. But it shouldn't be coming out of one chamber for this entire state when the parents are so divided about what's actually going on. I would ask that you give it back to us, because I don't think we've been given a chance to really work on this issue. We heard about the issue far before we heard about anybody damaged by it. We heard about the issue for months at board meetings, and yet hardly anyone was standing up saying, it was me that was impacted by this. That makes me suspicious as to how widespread or how systemic it is. So kick it back to us and give us a chance at keeping our public schools community-based. I think the community will rise together and do what they did when my parents were young parents and when your parents were young parents, and they will find a solution.
Did you have another question for him? Or?
No, Madam Chairman, I would just like to quickly respond to the
quickly.
gentleman's statements and that. And I can understand and appreciate your consternation sometimes with us legislatures. But the fact of the matter is, sir, is that I've heard you talk about the importance of us having an understanding with the kids and trying to teach some of this stuff. And here's what I'm getting to. Educators should be educating the kids on reading, writing, arithmetic, and the basic things that allow them to go out into society, become a functioning member of society, and be a benefit to the state of Arizona in being able to have a meaningful job and raise a family and get together and form a nucleus of what the all-American way is, which is opportunity. And the greatness of our country has been so big on that in the past. But what I see coming out of some of the reasons that we have this kind of is some of the things that I've railed against, such as Project 1619 and the blame, and when they want to start talking about, white privilege and things of that nature, which are concepts that kids in kindergarten and first, second, and third grade can't really comprehend. But at the same time, we're not teaching them. When I have a kid that graduated high school, didn't know who Christopher Columbus was, I say that we have a failure in our schools. I'm very supportive of the teachers and the education is something. I mean, there was Mrs. Kinney, and when I was in high school, that lifted me up by the side of my ear and said, "Listen here, Fillmore," and that made me realize and understand the importance of paying attention and doing some of the things. But I don't see that in our schools. We're talking about critical race theory and divisive issues and things of that nature. When schools want to talk about, as in statutes, that they want to talk about teaching our kids how to date, what the heck is that all about? There's a statute. When we have in statute a saying that we should be talking about the environmental concerns and things of that nature, but a kid can't understand 2 + 2 is 4, we got a fundamental problem in education. And I would say that when we rail against each other, and we don't mean to rail because we need to have a very calm, quiet conversation about this, but the reality of it is that I have so many teachers and so many people in the public school educational field come to me and talk to me about how bad charter schools are. The reason there are charter schools is because of the failures of the government-run public schools. The reason the private schools are reading, and the reason because of the ESAs, and the reasons that we want down here to give every parent the right to be able to choose what is best for their kid instead of some state-run public school is because of the failures of the state-run public schools. I'm going to shut up.
I'm going to have you keep it to the bill again. Thank you. I would just ask, you said earlier in your statement that the goal of the AEA is to ensure every child has the access to a quality education, regardless of their zip code. When I look at the AEA legislative policy positions, priorities for the session, none of them even remotely address quality education. Is that truly the goal of your organization? And I guess the question would be, why aren't those reflected then in your policy priorities?
Chairman Udall, thank you for the question. They are clearly reflected in our priorities. If your priority is to have a quality public school, and every child should have access to it, then every public school should be able to have a qualified, certified teacher in the classroom. They shouldn't put me in the classroom next door to you teaching algebra, because I'll do great for chapter 1 and chapter 2, and then I will be your worst nightmare asking you how to teach all of the other 37 chapters in that book. That's one of the ways in which you get a quality public education. It's something we don't talk about in this state, is you have to have people that are prepared and supported, people that can do the job and can do the job well. And we have policies and places and workloads, and you've heard them described today, that are pushing people out of the state and pushing people out of the profession. Some of that can be addressed here, not all of it, but some of it can be addressed here with fewer policies that feel like they're holding educators down or setting them up for failure.
Thank you.
Thank you.